Follow me.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
So many things to get done.
To get ready for the Sabbath.
Exactly. And dust everywhere.
Dear Hilka, have you brought the goats down here to eat? Look at this mess on the ground.
Speaking of the goats and the sheep, did you feed them twice as I asked you to, so that we wouldn't have to do it once the guests arrived?
Well, I did. I actually did, yes.
Did you?
And I did, yes. And when I was getting some feed for them, I
Yes.
also did the lamp oil.
Oh,
Aren't you proud of me?
I
huh?
am. You always forget about the lamp oil.
And
What?
Uh-oh.
I bet you didn't bring in the firewood.
I did not know. So I'll
So
have to do
now-
that
Well,
when
we'll
our
have light, but we won't have heat. It'll be okay, I guess.
when our guests go.
Okay.
But I can't believe that it is such a mess
so
in here.
much work to be done.
And
And the dust is just everywhere. It just
Well, you-
never seems to quit.
you
It's like
open the door
Open the
and
door
it-
and it just all just blows right in. Oh my goodness.
I do wonder if our guests where they live, if they have wind like we have here, because we still have a lot of wind. I can say that.
You've snuck in on us. We didn't hear you come in. You were so quiet. Well, welcome to our home. Enoch, our guests are here.
I don't know why this bed always gets so disheveled. What in the
Again,
world
thank
is
you for
going on?
coming, but Enoch, our guests are here.
Hilka, how many times must I remind you that I know Philip and Andrew told us guests were coming, but they did not tell me when they were coming. And what?
Our guests are here.
What? Hilka, dear,
Yes.
our guests are here. Oh, and I wish you would have told me that they were. And I'm
There
not
you are,
even
Sash.
dressed. Oh my goodness, I'm not
Dressed.
dressed.
Yes.
Excuse me while we.
Philip and Andrew told us that some guests would be arriving, Greek guests. Oh, you must be them. Oh, we're so happy to have you here in our home. Well,
Indeed.
you've come. Well, you've come. They've come for the feast,
Oh.
Enoch.
To be in God's holy city for the Passover.
Oh.
What could be better?
Oh, there's no better
Nothing.
place to
Oh,
be, no.
oh, yes, so many people. It will be filled with pilgrims.
Yes, from everywhere, all over. Yes.
Oh, what negligent hosts we've been. We have failed to offer to wash our guests' feet. Oh, what in the world would our
Oh.
neighbors say if they knew
Oh.
that we had done that?
Embarrassing. But
Wash
you
your
know,
feet?
typically the servants do this kind of
Yeah.
thing. But you know, I've
Right.
heard it said
Remove your shoes?
that even that Jesus washed the disciples' feet.
Well, doesn't that just sound like Jesus that he would do that?
Such
He
a
had
servant heart, always thinking about us, never
It's a
himself.
little cold because
No.
it just came
Oh.
out of the well,
Yes.
but it's very
Oh.
refreshing, isn't it?
Well, yes. Well, if you don't care to have your feet washed, would you just
Aren't you glad
dip
you
your
did that
fingers in
now?
some cold
Yes.
water? I'm sure that the journey was long and hot. Dip your fingers, put it on your neck, or on your forehead. Oh, it'll cool you down.
A little chilly.
I'm sure that your journey was hot, and dusty, and heavy again. Oh, and the wind maybe was just atrocious. That was just good. Yes. Dip your fingers. Yes. Oh, it feels so good. Even on the wrists. Oh, so cooling. Oh, such hot, dusty affair. Yes. Oh, dip your fingers in there. Oh, cool yourself down. It feels so good. It really does. Fresh from the well. The well is deep. Oh, dip your fingers. You'll see how refreshing it feels. That feel good. Yes. Cool yourself. Yes.
Hilka, most of these people just have one dirty foot.
Oh, dear.
It's most interesting.
Well, it's probably their dominant foot.
Or maybe they walked in.
That could be.
I don't really
You
know.
know, it's all right. I say, dip your fingers in the bowl and cool yourself. Your forehead or your neck. Oh, it feels so good. Go ahead. Oh, yes, cool yourself. Oh, it feels wonderful. Yes. Oh. Enoch, do you remember the other day?
You won't be disappointed. You won't be disappointed. It's fresh. Are you sure? How about the lovely lady underneath you? Yes. Look, a lot of these people have double sandals. They have one inside the other one. It's interesting. They must do that do they do that in Greece? Have two sandals?
They both are first and
One is very soft and
pliable.
and pliable, yes.
Huh.
The other's
Interesting. Interesting. And me and my bare feet. Look at that.
Now, isn't that refreshing?
Yes. Oh. All right. Oh, Enoch, do you remember the other day? Do you recall the parade
Oh, who could
that
forget?
went through the city? Do you remember?
Who could forget? Again, the streets
The
were.
streets were full of pilgrims from everywhere. You couldn't believe all the people.
Look.
Thousands. Oh, what have you found?
I went outside and I
Mementos of that day.
found Hosanna to the
Hosanna,
Son
they
of
said,
David.
Hosanna.
Blessed is he who
Oh,
comes in the
And,
name of the
they put
Lord.
the palm branches on the
Yes.
road, and some of them put their cloaks down so that Jesus' feet would never have to touch the dirt.
Oh,
Oh,
but Hilka,
yes.
Jesus' feet never did touch the dirt. Don't you
that's right.
Oh,
That's
did I bring
right.
that up?
Oh,
I can't believe I brought that
He
up. Oh,
rode
no.
in on a donkey,
Oh.
didn't he? Yes, he did. Oh, Enoch, did I tell you? Did I tell you?
Yes.
Whose donkey he rode in on? Did I?
Yes.
Well, let me refresh your memory. The donkey he rode in on belonged to my brother Nahum. Yes, my brother. Oh, can you imagine it, Enoch?
Yes. Hilka, dear, you have told me that several times this week.
But it bears repeating.
These folks, even though we're glad to have them in our home, they have not come to see us.
No, they've not come to see us at all. No, you've come to see Jesus, haven't you?
Oh.
And here we're regaling you with nonsense. Well, no, perhaps. Maybe they could catch up.
He just left.
He did. He was just here minutes ago.
He went to the upper room with Philip and Andrew. Oh, that you would have been soon. You would have been here sooner. What a
Oh.
shame. Oh.
Perhaps if they go quickly now, they could catch up with you.
Well, why don't I go check and see if
You
that
do
would
that.
be a possibility?
Yes.
What are you going to do? What, a song,
I'll
a
take you
dance?
down. Just go, would you?
Are you sure?
Yes.
You're okay with that? You're
Go.
Greeks, you know.
Go.
Okay.
Man. Oh. You know what I would really like to hear? Oh, I've heard so many stories about Jesus, but I'd love to hear what you've heard about Jesus. What have you heard? Miracles? Anything? Have you heard?
Maybe they're all too new to Jerusalem, but surely something you've heard of him. You have a
Anything?
smile on your face. You know something. Tell us.
Miracles.
What? Some
What type of
specific.
miracles?
What kind?
He has healed those with leprosy.
Oh.
Have you ever seen someone with leprosy, ma'am?
Oh,
It's pathetic.
it's terrible.
To have clean skin.
Oh, and just like that.
Yes. Someone
Gone.
over here. Something that Jesus taught, or you told. That's something that you heard about.
Raise Lazarus.
Lazarus.
Oh, he raised the
Were you
dead.
there?
He raised
Were you-
the dead.
oh. Everyone isn't very happy about this.
No.
In fact, some of the leaders are very angry with Jesus. They're saying the whole world is following him.
Oh,
You are part of that whole world because you are Greeks. Sort of a prophecy come true. They're ready, by the way.
are they?
Yes.
Oh,
Did you want to say
quick.
one more thing?
Well, I was
By the lake.
by the sea. That meal that he served. You know, I've been known to stretch a meal in my time, but not even I think I could stretch fish and loaves quite that far.
You could call it a.
A stretch.
Now, Hilka, dear, you are a good cook, to be sure. And you know that broiled fish that you do? You put butter on and then some garlic
No,
salt.
Enoch, they're not here for recipes. They want to see
Oh,
Jesus.
that's true. That's true.
Go
we're so
quickly.
glad that
Hopefully
come.
you can
Come
catch
back
him.
and we might
Please.
have some of that broiled fish.
Yes.
Yes. Follow
Yes.
up to the upper room. Shalom. Blessings on you. Shalom. Thank you. Enjoy the summer.
Are you here to see the one they call Jesus?
Yes.
Oh, you just missed him, but please come inside. Elizabeth, we have more guests. More guests, but the party is over. My feet are so tired. And what will we serve them? The men ate most of the food. Elizabeth, remember Elijah and the widow of Zarephath? Yes. What happened? She invited Elijah in and they didn't run out of food. We don't have much, but you're welcome to what we have left. On this Seder tray, we have the shank bone of a lamb that was prepared in the Temple of Jerusalem for the Passover meal. We also have apples, nuts, and spices to help remember the mortar that was used to build bricks in Egypt. Elizabeth, do you remember the story of when the Egyptians took the straw away? Yes, lives for our ancestors was very hard. This is the unleavened bread, which reminds us of how God's people left Egypt so quickly that they could not wait for their fresh breads. These are the grains dipped in salt water. The grains remind us of spring, while the salt water reminds us of how God's people cried during slavery. The bitter herbs remind us of the bitter lives of slavery. The egg reminds us of the sacrifices that they offered to God for their sins. And the wine reminds us of the redemption and the freedom of slavery. We don't have much, but you're welcome to what we do have. We don't have wine, but we have juice. As it's tradition to read the Exodus story, may we read it to you?
Yes.
Then Moses summoned all the elders of Israel and said to them, "Go at once and select the animals for your families and slaughter the Passover lamb. Take a bunch of hyssop, dip it into the blood in the basin, and put some of the blood on the top and on both sides of the doorframe. None of you shall go out of the door of your house until morning. When the Lord goes through the land to strike down the Egyptians, you will see the blood on the top and the sides of the doorframe, and will pass over that doorway. And he will not permit the destroyer to enter your houses and strike you down. Obey these instructions as a last ordinance for you and your descendants. When you enter the land that the Lord will give you as he promised, observe this ceremony. And when your children ask you, 'What does this ceremony mean to you?' then tell them, 'This is the Passover sacrifice to the Lord, who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt, and spared our homes when he struck down the Egyptians.' Then the people bowed down and worshipped. The Israelites did just what the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron. At midnight, the Lord struck down the firstborn in Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat on the throne, to the firstborn of the prisoner, who was in the dungeon, and the firstborn of all the livestock as well. Pharaoh and all his officials and all the Egyptians got up during the night, and there was loud wailing in Egypt, for there was not a house without someone dead. During the night, Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, 'Up, lead my people, you and the Israelites. Go worship the Lord as you've requested. Take your flocks and herds as you have said, and go. And also bless me.' The Egyptians urged the people to hurry and leave the country, for otherwise, they said, 'We'll all die.' So the people took their dough before the yeast was added, and carried it on their shoulders in kneading troughs, wrapped in clothing. The Israelites did as Moses instructed, and asked the Egyptians for articles of silver and gold and for clothing. The Lord had made the Egyptians favorably disposed toward the people, and they gave them what they asked for. So they plundered Egypt. The Israelites journeyed from Ramses to Sukkot. There were about 600,000 men on foot, besides women and children. Many other people went up with them, and also large droves of livestock, both flocks and herds. When the dough the Israelites had brought from Egypt, they baked loaves of unleavened bread. The dough was without yeast because they had been driven out of Egypt and did not have time to prepare food for themselves. Now the length of time the Israelite people lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of the 430 years, to the very day, all the Lord's divisions left Egypt. Because the Lord kept vigil that night to bring them out of Egypt, on this night all the Israelites are to keep vigil to honor the Lord for the generations to come. I love the Passover feast, but this Passover meal was very different. It was. Jesus said that one of his disciples would betray him. And then they all started arguing about who was the greatest. And then someone got up and left. And Jesus started talking about bread and wine. He said that the bread was his body and that the wine was his blood poured for us. Tamar, can they just change the meaning of the bread and the wine like that? I didn't think you could do that. And I don't understand what he meant. I don't understand either. I'm sorry, you're busy people, and here we are rambling on. If you're still looking for Jesus, I think I heard him say he was going down the hill to the Garden of Gethsemane.
Oh, it's so beautiful down there. If you hurry, you still might be able to catch him.
Yes, we did. Just kind of have them wait here, and then I'm giving them after a little bit of a break. So just keep on coming down.
Oh, you guys must be the Greeks looking for Jesus, right?
Yes.
You just missed him. Let me tell you, that's not the only thing you missed. This garden is a mess. It got pretty intense here probably about an hour ago, and they left me behind to clean it up. I mean, look at this place. I got swords and sticks and more swords and more sticks. And I'll be here another hour at this point. Sorry, I should probably introduce myself. My name is Malchus of Caesarea. I work for Caiaphas, the high priest. Some people like to call me a temple cop. I don't know. I prefer to think of myself as the last defense against the holiest man in all of Israel. What do they call that in Greece? The secret service or something like that? I don't know. Anyway, I'm normally not up at this time of night. Normally, Caiaphas has long past fallen asleep at this hour. But tonight, let me rephrase that. Very, 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 very early this morning, one of the veteran soldiers bursts open my door. He rushes to my bed and shakes me awake, saying, Rookie, wake up. We're going to go get the Galilean. And even in my sleepiness, I knew exactly who he was talking about. Jesus of Nazareth. We've heard quite a few rumors about this guy for years now. Mostly good rumors, actually. But it wasn't until a couple of days ago when we decided we might need to deal with him a little more seriously. What, did you guys not hear about that? It happened in the temple a couple of days ago. Jesus and his disciples came to the temple, and they made a bigger mess of that place than they did of this one. Let me tell you, Jesus was flipping over tables and opening up cages, letting all these birds and animals go all over the place. He was throwing the money of the change collectors everywhere. Caiaphas was furious. He was so mad. But he knew that he couldn't deal with Jesus just then. So he decided to wait, due to Jesus' popularity amongst the crowd there. Hey, I heard quite a bit of planning about this over the past few days. They said they were waiting for a quiet moment, a very vulnerable moment. And that moment took place right here tonight, about an hour ago. I was standing in the back row of the soldiers over there, kind of. It happened right here, actually. I can still see it as clear as day, though. But Jesus had this one disciple who betrayed him. He turned him in so that we knew exactly where he was so we could come arrest him. His name was Judas or something like that. Anyway, so I'm watching this. Judas comes up to Jesus and he kisses him right on the cheek. Don't worry, this is all completely irrelevant and everything. That's the sign that we had picked out to determine which guy to arrest. So one of the commanders says to Jesus, "Are you Jesus of Nazareth?" And Jesus replies, "I am." But it wasn't like he was just saying, "Yes, I am Jesus of Nazareth." It was like he was saying, "I am God." It was like Adonai said to Moses in the wilderness, But at the sound of his words, these two simple words, I am, all of our veteran soldiers fell to the ground right on their backs as if they were hit by a battering ram. And not long after that, I don't know who pulled their sword first, but someone got the idea that this was becoming an all-out battlefield. So they pull their sword and they start whacking at people, and all these swords are clashing all over the place, and I start panicking. So I start reaching for my dagger, right? But then one of those northerners, he comes up behind me and he cuts my ear right off. And blood's going everywhere. I start panicking even more. And then I look at my feet and my ear is laying there on the ground. And at the sight of my ear, everything kind of stopped. And everyone was looking at me in astonishment. Well, everyone except for Jesus. Jesus was looking at me, but in love. And he came over to me and he put his hand up to my ear, this one right here. And all of a sudden, it was restored. It was healed. It was back again. It was as if nothing had ever happened. It was so unreal. It was like a dream, except it was real. And Jesus is real. And his power is real. But his power isn't a normal power that militaries use, one with swords and shields and spears and everything. Jesus' power is one with love and kindness, and his power is his heart, his character, everything about him. And he used this love and power to heal me. I didn't even believe anything I heard about Jesus before this. I thought he was just some wacky guy telling all these Israelites all this made-up stuff about him being the Son of God and everything. But tonight, that all changed. Now I believe because he saved me. He healed me. And I didn't deserve it. I'm still really in awe about this whole thing. But I think they're taking Jesus to the throne room now, actually. Of course, I have to stay here and clean this up. Of course, they make the guy who gets his ear cut off clean up everything. Goodness. But you guys should all go head down to the throne room and see if he's still there. I would join you, but I have a mess to clean up.
You're gonna let your eyes get accustomed to that time to get to the next room.
Are you looking for Jesus? Yes. I'm sorry. You just missed him. But on the upside, you also just missed another epic meltdown from my boss, King Herod Antipas. That's his throne. I'm glad you guys could all come inside from the courtyard. It's pretty windy out there. And, by the way, I'm Rhoda. I'm the king's cupbearer. And a pretty important part of this whole thing, if you don't mind me saying. I test all food and drink that is presented to the king. Why? Because there's a pretty good chance that someone is trying to poison the king, and I guess it's better that I go down instead of him. I guess poor Jewish girl is a little more expendable than the king. Herod. always nervous, always looking over his shoulder, and I guess that goes without reason. Everyone nowadays is on edge. No one knows what to think of these Passover pilgrims, and no one knows what the Roman government thinks about them. Antipas and the local governor, Pontius Pilate, aren't exactly on the best of terms. They have, what did Herod call it? Oh, a mutual obligation without mutual admiration. Whatever. I guess one thing that could bring them together, though, is their shared loathing for these Galilean messiahs. It seems like one leaves and two more come to fill their spot. And it's always overthrow the occupiers this and start a new exodus that. Blah, blah, blah. Everyone is a hero in their own minds. And I guess, in my opinion, everyone's just fighting for the same amount of attention that people used to give John the Baptist. Incidentally, he was another one of those people that ended up on my boss's bad side. If it were up to him, all of these make-believe messiahs would be thrown to the bottom of the salt sea and never given a second chance. After all, this is his throne, his city, his kingdom. Why be flailing about these preachers from the boondocks? One exception, though, is the person you are all looking for, Jesus. Herod had heard about all these crazy things he had done and was very excited to receive him from the temple police this morning. Not without a stiff cup of coffee, of course. That's, of course, why I'm awake at this ridiculous hour. Gotta test everything, even the king's caffeine. We all anticipated Jesus' arrival. We all had heard about these healings. There's even a rumor of a man from Bethany that was raised from the dead. Wow. If Herod could get that type of power on his side, he would be certainly willing to wake up to see a sign of that. When Jesus came in, he didn't strike me as anything that impressive. He looked tired. Tired, and yet he had some sort of determination, too. I would have thought that he would bring all of these followers and all of these defenders, but he didn't. He was all alone. I was talking to a man outside that I thought was with Jesus, but instead he just started cursing heaven and earth and told me he wasn't with Jesus at all, and I was like, I'm sorry, not my problem, sorry. When Jesus came in here, not only didn't he bring defenders, he didn't even defend himself. I don't even remember him saying one word. He just stood here, quietly, in front of the king. He wasn't nervous or anything, he was calm. The more I think about it, that's a sign in itself. Jesus was very different than Herod. Herod always assumed that people were going to surround him and attack him. Jesus literally was surrounded, and yet he had peace. It wasn't only the king interrogating him, though. The Sanhedrin was here hurling insults. The soldiers were mocking his manhood and sarcastically bowing down to him. One of Herod's other servants grabbed this robe from the closet and threw it on his back. It was psychological warfare. A big part of me wanted Jesus just to stand up and silence them all. But he didn't. Everyone said he could do it. They said he could contend all of the rebukes from the teachers, that he could outwit, outsmart, outteach all of them. That's what they liked about him. He had authority, they said. He was the best, they said. But not tonight. There was no miracles, no battles, no debates, nothing. There was tranquil resilience. The more I think about it, that's probably the greatest sign in and of itself. Jesus came in here, calm, didn't even try to make this about himself. He did something that no one has ever forced Herod to do. He made him think about himself, about his demands, his expectations. He didn't try and impress the king. He exposed him for what he was really worth. Worry and weakness. If he can do that to someone like my boss, I wonder what else he's capable of. If you want to see him for yourself, you better hurry. It's not long before the people who stand up to these rulers are crucified at the place of the skull. I hope you find what you're looking for.
Looking for Jesus? You're too late. His friends already took the body. As far as crucifixions go, this one was pretty short. Seen a lot of holdouts over the years, but this man just didn't seem to want to fight the inevitable. It's cold up here, isn't it? No matter the season, Skull Hill is always cold. Yes, when the only thing that ever happens around here is death, there's bound to be a bit of chill in the air. I've seen my fair share. Murderers, insurrectionists, spies, thieves, they're all brought here. One at a time, they drag their cross, they carry their shame, and they wind up here. Advertisements, really, for the people going by on the road. Here's what not to do. You mess with Caesar, you get the cross. The billboards don't seem to be doing enough to deter local criminal activity anymore. These people who are living the way they see it, under Roman occupation, seem to feel justified in doing whatever they have to do to get through these days. Some people will always need lessons, especially here in Palestine. It's odd, never thought my career was going to end up here. Came from Gaul. Knew a man in the local legion, he could get me a slot in the Imperial Army. Age 15, I was off for adventure. A few battles here, a few civic projects there, and one more promotion. Here I am. Jerusalem. In all those battles, I learned a lot about fanaticism. People everywhere are superstitious. They all have their gods. They all have their altars. They all have their ceremonies. They all wave their banners and they all shout about victory, but in the end, might always makes right. They all quit. They all end up bowing the knee. But life goes on. The sun comes up. the world continues to turn. And all that passion, all that energy is lost, forgotten before very long. That's what made today so odd. This Jesus was nothing like that. Like almost everyone brought here to Skull Hill, he was accused of trying to overthrow Caesar. They even had a sign made for his cross. King of the Jews. One of my men took a couple branches, wound them together, made this crown of thorns to put on his head. Jesus was supposed to be embarrassed and humiliated. The idea was to discredit him in front of all these people going by, him and anybody who would threaten Caesar. Tiberius Caesar is, after all, the Divi Filius, the Son of God. But not only did Jesus not recant, he acted as though it was his destiny to take up this cross. I know how this goes. At the end, most of these criminals are either cursing the Romans or they're pleading for a second chance. They're either swearing at us or they're swearing they'll never do it again. But not Jesus. The things Jesus said it's completely different. Some of what he said sounded almost like poetry. I overheard one of the Jews who was here say that it was one of their psalms. 22, I think. And then Jesus brought his friend and his mother close to him. He wanted to make sure that she would be cared for when he was gone. But this is what really got to me. Toward the end, Jesus looked at me. And his eyes were crusted closed almost with blood and with sweat. But he looked at me. He made eye contact. And then Jesus prayed to his God for me. Father, he said, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. I was amazed. If anybody on this hilltop today knew what he was doing, it's me. I have presided over hundreds of crucifixions. I know my job. I knew exactly what I was doing. But then one little word transcended everything else. Forgive. Never have I ever had a crucified man pray for my forgiveness. Couldn't believe what was happening. Then, as Jesus' breaths became shorter and shorter, something else happened too. I'm sure you saw it. The sky got black as midnight. The sun refused to shine. The heavens themselves were lamenting the death of Jesus. And then the ground began to tremble. The earth heaved and pitched and mourned. It was like the whole world was throwing itself apart. And even on this hilltop, we could hear them shouting in the Eastern Temple that the temple curtain had torn itself in two. So much death. I have seen so much death, but nothing ever like I saw today. The coin. It's a denarius, one of the old ones, Julius Caesar's image on it. It says, Son of God. No, not Caesar. Not any of those deities worshipped by any of those distant armies. No, if there is a Son of God, it's this Jesus. I'm sorry you didn't get to see him before he died. If it's important to you, you can probably see where they laid him. Some of the Jewish leaders asked Pilate for the body. You'll need to go this way.
Are you here looking for Jesus? Well, you found him, sealed away behind that stone. You can't come any closer. Pilate himself has ordered that this tomb be sealed. There are soldiers. They're on patrol now, but they will be back. Have you ever thought about what it feels like to walk by your own grave? I have. It's a strange feeling to think that I will lie there in death. Several months ago, when I had this tomb carved and dug out, I would find myself walking by it often and thinking this very thing. In 1,000 years, Joseph of Arimathea, son of Israel, will lie here in death. Have you ever thought about that? And then, when I heard that Jesus had given up his spirit, I knew that I had to lay him in this tomb in my place. And it happened so quickly, the Sabbath was coming. Nicodemus and I had to pull strings with the Romans. But at that point, there was no sense in to hide our feelings for Jesus, our love for Jesus. Because all of our hopes, all of our plans, all of our visions now lie there behind that sealed stone. How could it have ended so quickly? How could it have ended in defeat? My friend is gone. Jesus is gone. I can remember the first time I'd ever seen Jesus. It was on the hillside outside of Capernaum, and he was talking about the Torah. And he said things like, love your enemies. Bless those who persecute you. Grant gifts to those who attack you. It was also strange. It was different from everything that I had been taught. But it made sense. Love is stronger than anything they've got. Love is stronger than death, wise King Solomon said. But now all I have are doubts. All I feel is the death. Painful, purposeless death. Have you ever thought of that? The finality of it all. I must go now. The Sabbath is here. And Jesus has departed. But if there's one thing, one glimmer, one flicker of hope that I can leave you with, and I dare to say it. Jesus had said something about Jonah. Jesus' sign would be like Jonah's. 3 nights of darkness. 3 days under the earth. And then what? And then what? And then what? God only knows.
The Holy Heart was broken, sent from the Father's side. The Son of God forsaken, the holy sacrifice. For me he was forsaken, for me he died alone, my sin forever taken, that I might be his own. The Holy Lamb was stricken, abandoned and alone. He bore the world's afflictions, he bore it as his own. For me he was forsaken, for me he died alone, my sin forever taken, that I might be his own.
Now go, thinking about what that sign of Jonah could be, thinking about what those 3 days just might mean. Go in peace.